drive. Tatum the finish. It is banner 18. The mission commanded is mission accomplished.
What's up, everyone? This is Noa Dalzell, and I'm here with another episode of You Got Boston, here from Madison Square Garden after the Celtics dominated 115-93 win over the New York Knicks to get back in the win column for the first time this series and cut the series deficit to 2-1. I thought that it might be another summer until I do another one of these 4 encouraging things. I didn't do 4 encouraging things after game 2 because, it just didn't feel appropriate after that late game collapse. But I did talk about kind of the context around that loss and why it wasn't necessarily a massive panic time. And especially as I rewatched that game, I felt more and more encouraged that they were going to be able to bounce back from the 2 losses. And just because of the fact that they've been the better team in the series for the most part, with the exception of 2 fourth quarter stretches, they have been far and away the better team in the series. And despite the fact that the Knicks still hold the lead. So fresh off this game, we heard afterwards from Payton Pritchard, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Joe Mazzulla. You can find those entire post-game press conferences on CLNS Media, where we post all of the press conferences from all the players, as well as Knicks players as well, so you can hear their perspective on kind of what went wrong. But as we heard from the players and as we kind of left this game, you could feel that the tides are shifting a little bit in the series. New York still holds the 2-1 lead. They still have home court advantage. Home court advantage, I don't know how much it means anymore in the playoffs. You're seeing road teams every night seemingly winning on the road. The Cavs-Pacers series, the road teams won every game. Celtics-Knicks series, the road teams won every game. So home court advantage is not quite what it once was. Even still, I think you're finding that the Celtics are able to turn the tides a little bit here. So I wanted to talk about 4 things that I found encouraging from this game, as well as kind of what the keys are for the Celtics team moving forward as they look to tie things up in Monday night at Game 4, and then ultimately take control of the series back at home. That's what they're going to want to do here. I don't think they want a Game 7. I think they want to win these next 3 games, and they feel that they should be able to do that. This is a confident group. Their confidence didn't waver after these 2 fourth quarter collapses. I think they've been in difficult positions before with their backs against the wall, and time and again they've responded. And I think they felt that they were going to be able to do that today, and they did it. So off the top, number one thing that I'm going to start with is that I was advocating when I did a show here from practice a couple of days ago for more Payton Pritchard minutes. And the reason for that is because ultimately, the Celtics went out and got Kristaps Porzingis after losing to Miami in the conference finals of 23, because I think they realized that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are 2 wing players that sometimes, once in a while, can struggle when they're met with opposing wing players that are very good defenders. And that's kind of the nature of just the NBA and the nature of opposing teams' defenses, working really hard to get the ball out of their hands and making their lives difficult. And so they got Porzingis as that release valve. It hasn't really gone according to plan because, as everybody knows, last year in the postseason, he missed all but 6 games. And then this year, he struggles in the first round against Orlando. And then, as we've now heard from multiple sources, including himself, he gets this big crash from this viral illness that he suffered in March, right before this Knicks series. And so I don't know exactly what this is. It's still very confusing to me from a respiratory standpoint, like what it is that he's feeling, but he's fatigued. His breathing is labored, and it's making it hard for him to be his best self on the floor, and that is obvious, right? And so in this game, he gets 18 minutes. He's a plus 11. He gives them 5 points. He's 0 for 3 from the field, but hits 5 free throws, 5 of 6 free throws. I thought he struggled a little bit on the boards, gets 4 rebounds, 2 assists. So 3 blocks, shout out for the 3 blocks. I think he was able to alter some shots that also didn't count as blocks, so that was great. But he's not the offensive force that he was during the regular season, right? This is a guy that during the season averaged 19.5 points per game on 49% shooting. And right now, he is not that guy. He wasn't that guy against Orlando, and he's even farther from that guy against the Knicks. And the reason for that is because he's not playing the minutes. He's not getting the touches. I mean, again, he took 3 shots in this game, right? He played 13 minutes in game 2. He played 13 minutes in game 1. He's coming off the bench right now as a role player. And I think that's because that's all he can physically give you. And so that's the deal with Kristaps Porzingis, right? At the same time, you have another guy who everybody knows, I believe he can be a really kind of a top offensive option for this team when they need him, and that's Payton Pritchard. Pritchard was a bright spot in game 2. He wasn't super efficient, but in the fourth quarter, he had 2 big threes that had they won that game, I think we'd all be talking about still of how he helped fend off that Knicks comeback. But he's a guy where if you look through his season numbers, Everybody else on this team had a month, had 6 weeks, had 2 weeks where they just weren't shooting well. He didn't really have that stretch. There were moments where he took less shots. There were moments where he had fewer touches because Kristaps Porzingis was back in the lineup because everybody was healthy, and so he sacrificed some of those touches. In this game, he was 8 of 16 from the field and finished with a team high 23 points. And I think he honestly could have had more because he actually missed some clean looks, but 5 of 10 from 3, hits both of his free throws, 2 offensive rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, 0 turnovers, which is perhaps the most important stat because they've talked time and again about limiting the live ball turnovers. As a team, the Celtics team only had 8 turnovers in this game, which is huge. And so Pritchard to me was the X factor from this one, just giving them a third guy that can score points. And obviously Derek White's that guy as well. He has 17 points in this game on 6 of 10 shooting, so he was great, had some critical threes in the third quarter. But it can't just be Tatum and Brown, and that's not how they won the championship. It's not how they've been at their best over these past 2 seasons under Mazzulla. Guys like Jrue Holiday, critical, right? And so that was the most encouraging thing to me. Not just the fact that Pritchard hit his shots, but also just the fact that he got those opportunities, that his teammates allowed him to take 16 shots, right? That Joe Mazzulla played him for 34 minutes and 30 seconds, which was, the Tatum played 39 minutes, Brown played 35. And then right after that, you have Pritchard and Al both playing 34 minutes. And so that's huge. And they're going to continue to lean on Pritchard in this series. I said this before and I'll say it again. He's no longer just the guy that can come in and score a couple points for you and hit a few threes and everybody's excited about the heaves and all that. He's now a guy that you can come in to rely on as your sixth man of the year. And that's why he won that award. It's why he was so impactful, and such a big part of the Celtics winning 61 games. And again, in this game, he was able to showcase that and hit some timely ones, beat the buzzer at the end of the second quarter, hit a big 3 in the fourth, like just big plays, big momentum swings. On our postgame show, we discussed that he just, kind of ripped an offensive rebound out of Mikal Bridges' hands. Like those are the plays that are so critical. I asked him about what he's seeing out there when he checks into the game. And he said he's just trying to bring energy. He's trying to bring energy and pace. And pace is critical for them, especially when they're up by double digits and they start walking the ball and doing that thing that we've all seen a million times, right? This Celtics team and other teams that are leading do. And so that's number one. It's not the only story from this game, certainly far from it. But number one is the fact that he was able to get going offensively and the fact that they leaned on him and trusted him because ultimately, there's only so much he can do if he's playing for 15 minutes at a night. And I think that he can give them starter level minutes right now, especially when they're down Sam Hauser, right? No Sam Hauser still. He's been doubtful the last 2 games with an ankle sprain. I think he'll be back in the series, but right now they don't have that. So it's another 3-point shooter that they're down. And so they have him in their place. Number 2 thing that really encouraged me about this game is not that they shot 20 for 40 from 3 because some of it is not controllable, right? They hit some tough ones early on. You could tell Jason Tatum just had it. He hits his first 4 threes, I believe, finishes 5 of 9 from downtown. But it was the quality of the shots. And this is the thing. I look at advanced analytics. I know they tell you when shots are open, when they're contested, all these different things. Like there is some, there is some truth to how those numbers work in Second Spectrum, and there's all these different sites that calculate it. Sometimes you just got to watch the games. And so I'm not obsessed with the advanced analytics. I lean on them, and it's something that I actually want to get better at is looking at them more and incorporating them more into my reporting. But I watch these games and I rewatched games, ones and two a few too many times, honestly, especially when went wrong down the stretch. And they did have wide open looks, and they are shots that should generally fall. But a lot of them weren't in rhythm. And what I mean by that is like, there was a play in the second half of this game where Tatum is dribbling the ball, and he's trying to make his move, and ultimately doesn't make his move and instead passes to Jalen, who had been standing there flat-footed for like the entire possession to take a corner 3. And Jalen missed that 3. And as he was taking that 3, I was thinking to myself, that is a low percentage shot. He was wide open. He can hit a corner 3, right? Like Jalen takes 3s all the time. He was 2 for 6 in this game. But that particular 3 was a low percentage shot because he's just standing there flat-footed. There is no action. There's no rhythm. He didn't know he was getting the ball from Tatum. It's no blame on Tatum for throwing that pass because, he didn't have anything going, so he passed to his teammate. So, that makes sense. But it wasn't an action where they were able to find a good rhythm. And I think in this game, for the most part, and I'll rewatch it and I'll tell you guys if I change my mind, but I do think for the most part, of their 43-point attempts, most of them were in rhythm 3s. It was a paint touch. There was a beautiful play where Jrue Holiday had a paint touch, passed it out to Derek White in the corner. It was guys coming off a screen, a guy dribbling in rhythm, taking the first look, not taking not passing up the first three to pass, and then forcing somebody to take a slightly more contested three. Like the looks that they had in games 1 and 2, and in game 2 in particular, I felt like they passed up some threes, were a little bit more challenging. They were a little bit more out of rhythm. I like the looks that they got in this game. They're not always going to go 20 for 40. That's obviously an elite clip for three-point shooting. They were 25 over their first 100 threes. So like it totally swung in this game, and everybody expected that, because at the end of the day, like the numbers are going to average out. That's what the whole thing with the 7-game series, right? If you were playing March Madness basketball, like game plans would be different, right? And they're not. They know that it's a 7-game series. Jaylen Brown said it post game. It's not enough to beat us twice. You have to beat us 4 times. Not 3 times, not twice, not once, 4 times. And a part of that is going to be the variant shooting is going to ideally play out. And even in the Miami series, where the Celtics went historically cold, and even that, and they went to a 7-game series, right? So it doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily work out, but you saw that here. But I like the looks that they got today. It felt like they were playing in rhythm. I like the paint touches. I thought you saw Porzingis getting involved offensively, where even he was kicking it out to shooters. I thought the way that they used Pritchard, he's a guy that plays with a lot of flow. 5 of 10 attempts for him. That's great. Ultimately, you want your best shooters to have the most attempts here. So I want to see Payton Pritchard and Derek White getting the most 3-point attempts in these games, right? Al Horford, 3 for 4 for 3. I'm going to talk more about him after the break, but that's what I love to see. It was the kinds of shots that they got, and I wish, and Jack Simone makes these great videos. Maybe I'll tell him he should make a video about this, but sometimes it's not just about whether they're open. It's not about who's shooting them. It's not about when they're shooting them. It's about whether it's in flow. And if you've played basketball, if you've played sports, I'm sure it applies to other sports, although I only know basketball, it applies as well, right? And you saw that here, and I think that's what they can replicate, is those actions where guys are taking shots when they're used to taking shots, right? If you watch Jaylen Brown in practice, he's running off picks, he's running up and down, he's taking threes in motion. He's not just standing there flat-footed, because those aren't the shots you get in games, right? So in that same vein, if you're standing there for 20 seconds and then you take a desperation shot at the end, those aren't the ones that are going to fall, especially a guy like Jaylen. He's not a pure shooter. He's not a pure three-point shooter the way that like a Sam Hauser is. So you want to get him in rhythm. He's a flow player, right? And I love the looks that they got in that sense. And I think they're going to continue to have to get those looks to continue turning this whole thing around. Quick message from our friends over at PrizePicks, and then I got 2 more encouraging things out of this Game 3 win for you guys.
PrizePicks is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. Cash in on the basketball playoffs with PrizePicks. Don't miss your last chance to add your favorite players from the core to your PrizePicks lineup. Whether it's points, rebounds, assists, take your pick of more or less for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. The basketball playoffs are here, and the action is heating up on PrizePicks, the best place to cash in on your favorite spots. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game.
So I got to be quick here because our time is limited here in Madison Square Garden. This is the only arena I think that you have a very limited post-game window. So I'm going to be quick. 2 other things that I liked from this game. Number 3, I guess, because I've done already 2, is Al Horford looked like he was playing on rest. He still plays 34 minutes in this one, so the minutes on him are heavy. But second night of a back-to-back, not second night of a back-to-back, when he's off 2 days of rest versus just 1 night of rest. And this is the only time in the series that he's going to have that game where he had 2 days of rest before this. They were completely off Thursday and Friday, no games. He just looks like a different player. And if you look over the past few years at his stats after 1 night of rest versus 2 nights of rest versus 3 nights of rest, it just gets better progressively. And that doesn't stand for everybody on this team. It doesn't stand for everybody in the NBA. I would probably attribute a lot of that to him being 38 and just having a lot of miles. And I don't know what exactly his recovery looks like, but he benefits when he has those extra days. Struggled a lot in game 2. I talked about it. I talked about how I thought that he shouldn't have played the entire fourth quarter, that you could tell that he just didn't have legs by the end of that period, and they didn't really have choices. In this one, 6 of 9 from the field, 3 of 4 from 3. He was 2 of 11 in game 2, so that's a huge departure, right? 6 of 9 from the field. 9 rebounds, including 3 offensive rebounds. He had some critical ones, 2 blocks, 15 points, and a plus 12 in his minutes. Masterful Al Horford game when you really needed it, when you really needed him to kind of step up, and in a must-win game. This is literally a must-win game, right? We all know that no teams come back from being down 3-0. Al came in and was just hugely impactful. And you can't, the shots fell tonight. They didn't fall in game 2. I'm not going to say, 100% it's because he got extra rest, but I do think that the numbers add up. He's just a better shooter on more nights of rest. Defensively, he was better. And then the glass. The rebounding is going to be critical right now. Kristaps is struggling on the glass in his minutes. You saw the Knicks players, Karl-Anthony Towns. He's been a good rebounder in the series. Mitchell Robinson, the big reason why they're hacking him is they want to get him off the glass, right? Karl-Anthony Towns, 15 boards in this game, 5 offensive. Like those two guys have really dominated the glass for New York. So Al Horford getting 9 rebounds, 3 offensive in his minutes, and hitting his shots, and defensively holding up the way that he did. And I think he got under Jalen Brunson's skin there as well. There was a moment where Brunson kind of shoved him a little bit or hit him in the flow of the game. And Al, I think Brunson thought he flopped, but Al was kind of on the floor. Like, look, Al is fiery. We get some players' heads. I thought that was a big moment as well. So shout out to him for a great bounce back game. He took responsibility for kind of him not converting in that fourth quarter in game 2. He was 1 of 6 in that period, comes in today, and he's very efficient offensively. And you don't want to see Al pass up threes. You want to see Al take the threes that are available, not those like tough twos, and then crash the glass. And that you saw him at his best today. Like that is what you want from him offensively. 6 of 9, and the looks that he got, you'd replicate any day. And again, they're not always going to fall. They did in this game. I think you want to find ways for him to get rest down the stretch here. In the finals, you get the 2 days off, but for the most part, it's every other night, the rest of the way. And if they make the conference finals, that's what it'll be as well. So big time bounce back from him. Last thing I'm going to say, and if this doesn't cover everybody, I didn't talk a ton about Tatum and Brown. Maybe I'll do some off-day stuff on them. They had some good moments in this one, some tough moments as well. They were both better in the first half than the second, so they were instrumental in kind of building the lead. I'm going to give a shout-out to Kristaps Porzingis, who, again, is so far from 100%. That much is obvious. He's not the scoring threat that people thought that he was going to be, heading into this postseason. He wasn't that in the first round, and he's not that right now either. But he gave them something, and he gave them 3 blocks, altered a lot of shots on the defensive end, honestly gave them 5 fouls, which you kind of need right now, because if they're going to do the Mitchell Robinson fouling thing, somebody got to come in and give those fouls, and you're not just going to put somebody in purely for that, right? It's somebody that you can help you in other ways. Porzingis in this game was a plus 11 in his 19 minutes, and did some good things. I thought, especially in the second half, he was able to alter some shots. As the Knicks were making their comeback push, Kristaps was able to kind of help, just deter some things around the rim. He still hasn't found any offensive flow in this series. 5 points for him, 0-3 from the field. He did go 5 of 6 from the line. But it's good to see him, first of all, be available after he left game 1. It's good to see him play 6 minutes more than he did in game 2. I still don't think he looks like himself. I still think he looks like he's just absolutely fighting through something. So it's kind of on a human level, just hard to watch. But he's giving it his all. And today, he contributed to winning, and that's kind of all you can ask for from everybody that checks into the game. Everybody has different expectations on this team. Everybody has different roles. Obviously, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have a much bigger, load to shoulder in these games. They have to, do the scoring thing. They have defensively to do more. Like the standard for them is going to be a lot higher. They get more praise. They get more blame, all of that. Porzingis right now, my expectations for him are way down. So I'm no longer putting the star expectations for him of like, okay, he needs to go off for 30. He needs to be a number 2 or 3 scoring option. I just want him to come in and not disrupt the flow offensively, crash the glass a little bit, alter shots. At the end of the day, like Joe Mazzulla said this week, but he's an elite talent. And therefore, it's not just about the fact that he's been out of the lineup. It's not just about, now we have to play more Luke or Al, or it puts pressure on other people. It's like you're just losing a guy who is incredibly talented. And so I do think he looks very altered, but the talent's still there, right? At the end of the day, he is a guy that is 7'1", 7'2", whatever his official height actually is. And in this game, he left it all out there. Like, he's been leaving it all out there. So I feel for him. I hope that he continues to get better, both from a basketball standpoint, and more importantly, from a human standpoint. But I think in this one, you can kind of tip your cap off to him for just, giving it what he had in a game where they really needed him. Luke Kornet, too. Played 10 minutes, but I thought that he had some really good plays. 6 points for him on 2 of 2 shooting. Hits both of his free throws, 2 offensive rebounds, a block. Like, that's really all you can ask for from Luke Kornet in this game as well. So you got a little bit from everybody. You got more than enough to come away with a massive win. Most importantly, they responded big time. They didn't collapse when they were up by 20. Everybody was nervous. Honestly, I looked at the Celtics bench. They looked a little nervous when they were up by 20. The Knicks looked like, let's do this again. Let's do this a third time. I think Celtics fans at home probably a little bit panicked when they saw the lead go up to double digits, especially because we just saw what can go wrong in those moments. But they kept their foot on the gas. They took care of the ball. They didn't, no kind of dribbling into traffic, dribbling into multiple defenders like the way you saw in the first 2 games down the stretch. And they didn't go ice cold in the fourth quarter, which was also very important. So it's still an uphill battle from here. The Celtics have to win 3 of their next 4 games to advance in the series. I think they can do it. My optimism continues to grow here every game. But that's it for now. We'll have more coverage after game 4 on Monday night. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the You Got Boston podcast and enjoy the rest of your day.